first story is going to be from Let's Not Meet. It's a Tinder date that turned out weird, and after reading this, it's very questionable, but I don't know, and let's get into it. I went on a Tinder date some time ago. While I was adjusting to the new city I'd moved to, I didn't really know anybody there. So I used some online dating apps to see this dating scene around town. I landed one from a girl that seemed just like the artsy hippie type. We had a few exchanges through Tinder, and then decided to meet up for a drink. I picked her up at her house, and she greeted me at the door and gave me a hug. She said the name of the local bar she wanted to go to, and to get to know each other. I told her I would drive us and proceeded to the car. The first red flag I noticed was when she walked to my car, and when I opened the door, she had just followed me to the driver's side and just standing there, staring at me. I looked at her blankly for about 15 seconds and asked her if she was going to get in. She said sure, she would love to, and went the long way to the passenger side of the car around back. Since I had just met the girl, I figured she had just maybe smoked some weed or something, as I kind of got the vibe she was a bit of a stoner. As I was driving to the bar, she talked in a very low voice, almost as if she was trying to whisper. I'm not hard of hearing or anything, but I had to ask her to repeat herself several times just so I could make out full sentences she was saying. When we got to the bar, I made sure we got a seat closer to the back, away from most people, just so we could have a little quiet in order to hear her. The conversation honestly carried on as normal from this point, and it was actually a fun time for the time being. We talked about different things we were interested in, and she did bring up she did recreationally use weed and a few other tripping substances, mushrooms and such. I'm not much of a fan of these, but at least it made me relax in the back of my mind, to think maybe she was just high off marijuana and that rationally explained some of the out of their behavior granted. I had a few drinks at this point, so I was honestly not thinking straight. I asked her if she wanted to go back to my place. After a few drinks, she agreed. When we got to my place, we just had a few more drinks and she started talking about her jewelry. This is where it gets weird. She told me her jewelry was a big secret and it defined her. When I asked why it was so important, she said, I'm actually Anastasia. I was never killed in Russia, and my jewelry is a link to my past. It was hard for me to take that serious, and at this point, with how much I drank, I kind of challenged that with a statement using the little bit I knew about history. At this point, she freaked out and started yelling at the top of her lungs about how I don't respect ancestors and history. Then she got quiet and tiptoed right behind me, grabbed me by the neck. She then brought my face eye to eye with hers while still holding my neck. She says, at this point, I am a shaman, I will curse you. My ancestors have destroyed many people, and you do not respect that. You are from an oppressive ancestors, and they will be punished. Then she puts her hand in a whiskey glass, made a cross on my face, and kissed my forehead. Okay. At this point, I started to sober up a little. I talked her into calming down, telling her I was only joking. Then she slowly started getting back to normal. Then she started talking about her cat fetish. She tells me she has a list of people who she tames to act like cats. I'm not about judging people on their fetishes, so I listen in. She then tells me all the things she does to them and starts acting like a cat in my living room. If she had not yelled at me earlier on, I might have almost been turned on by it. But my red flags in my head were tingling like crazy at this point, so I just listened and tried not to set her off. She noticed the sage on my kitchen counter and asked me to let her light it, and bless the house. As a side note, I use the sage to make my house smell better occasionally. It's kind of a ritual I like to do. It's mine and mine on my own. Something I take very personally and like to do myself. I tell her no, she can't light it, and that's my thing to do. Then she freaks out, telling me I am a horrible human being, and screaming all over the place. I tell her she can get out and go home now. As she runs to the door and goes outside, and as I'm going outside, she is screaming at the top of her lungs that I am a horrible person and that I should go die. I tell her she can walk herself home, and then I go back to my place and I lock the door. She starts banging on my door hard in about 10 minutes, saying she left her phone. I grab her phone off the kitchen counter and I open the door to hand it to her. She tries to barge inside. Luckily, I block her with my forearm. She then acts like she's about to punch me. I just hold my ground and tell her she's not coming in. She screams she wanted the whiskey bottle we were drinking from. I told her no because I paid for it. I slam the door at that point and lock it. I hear her bang on the door for a minute. I then hear her footsteps going down the stairs. And I waited about an hour, and then I went outside to see if she was still hanging around after that. I didn't see her, nor did I ever see her again. I'm confused on most of the whole story, like, Jesus Christ. You're more patient than I am, OP. Mr. Well, let me see, Mr. the Unnamed One. You're very much a tolerable person, and hey man, you met Anastasia, I'm pretty jealous, you know. Crap, you should have gone her autograph, man. You could have probably sold it like an NFT. But hey man, good on you that you never saw her again, and it was your point to miss out on the celebrity, man. That was total loss right there. And for those who don't know, I am joking. Well, it sounded like that lady was very ill, so I thank you, OP, for the story. And on to the next one by Hey R. Please let me enjoy my hobby in peace. Thrifting is my favorite hobby, if you can call it that. It's something I like to do alone when I get the time, as it's a chance for my brain to shut off and just let go as I scan the aisles crammed with random things for hours. No, I'm a 5'5" former elementary school teacher. I'm about as intimidating as a wet sock, as I'm pretty quiet and stay to myself in public. I had to decide to go out of my way to a store I hadn't been to before and followed my usual routine. When I'm in the store, it's just me and the items. I don't pay any mind to anyone around me, as the stores are crowded and I'm really only there for my own thing. So I imagine my surprise when an older woman turned to me and said, in a huff, "Can I help you?" I turned and looked around me to make sure I was who she was talking to. I just shook my head no, making a confused expression, and went back to looking at the shoes. Things were okay for a minute before I heard her in the next aisle talking to her friend. "Oh my God, this creepy woman is following me. Every time I look up, she's there." There was only so much space in the store. I usually go along the edges, and then make my way to the center of the store, so there's a good chance she probably just saw me doing my thing. I tried to avoid her until I realized she started talking to random people around me, and about how creepy I was, and how I was stalking her. People started giving me funny looks, but I paid no mind, and once they realized how harmless and shrimpy I look, someone turned to her and said, "Her? Really?" "Yeah, I'm gonna fuck her up if I see her again." She began making more and more aggressive comments, and I decided I had had enough. I've never fought anyone in my life, and wasn't planning to that day. I left my items and went to my car. Yeah, something was up with her, and I wasn't sticking around to find out. I think it was just an old lady you ran into, OP, and, trust me, if you're in a fight, just aim for the left side on the ribs. And that's all I could say. I'm not promoting violence. I'm saying to defend yourself, of course. You should never get into fights, because there is no winner, really. And the risk is a lot more, well, the risk of losing a fight is just a lot of trouble that you could be asking for. A lot of things can go wrong, so I would just suggest, not really fighting, but hey, who am I? I'm not anyone's parents. Alright, and the next story is by No Technician. Thieves tried to shoot me in the head when I was 15. The story goes back to the year 2015. It was around 8 p.m. and it was summer. So at the time it was just getting dark, and I live in a town where crime is almost never happens. It is a very safe rural area with few people, and here all the shops close early, so that night I went shopping around 7:40 and everything was quiet. I didn't have enough money to pay, so I bought, and when I got home, I had to go out again, take the rest of the money I needed, and pay to the store. I was listening to music. I had bought new headphones and was trying to get them out. I was walking 2 blocks from my house when a motorcycle with 2 men came out of nowhere. The man behind got out and took out a gun and pointed it at my head and started yelling at me to give him my things. I was paralyzed, but I managed to yell no. He yelled at me again to give him my cell phone. He yelled, "Give me everything, give me everything." I just squeezed my cell phone and headphones and yelled, "No, no, these are my things," over and over again. The whole time, the gun was pointed at my face from a meter or less away. When the guy with the gun saw I wouldn't give him anything, he fired. I saw very clearly how he pulled the trigger on the gun. He got on the motorcycle with the other man and they left at full speed. I didn't get shot at. I don't know if it was a real gun or fake. If it had bullets or not, I don't know anything. Plus, it was just after dark, but it was the most terrifying experience I've ever had. As soon as they left, I ran out and got to the store where I was going first. I arrived crying and shaking. It was hard for me to speak. I asked for help. They called my mom, who came to pick me up in a taxi, because I didn't want to walk home, even though it was 4 streets away. That was the first and last time I experienced a robbery attempt. It was the most stressful situation I've ever been through. I didn't know how to describe the absolute panic I felt when I saw the barrel of the gun in front of my eyes. And all for a cheap cell phone and some headphones? They didn't give any damn about a girl's life. They put a gun to my face. I wish that no one has to go through this, much less children. I was lucky, but many aren't. Especially in the city to which my town belongs, where this is a common courtesy. I thank you, No Technician. I'm very sorry for what happened, and I honestly hope you're doing fine now. And the last one, I wanted to just end with a little small scary story. This one from KG Lewis, and I very much like the story, and I hope you keep it to work, Lewis. Everyone stopped what they were doing when the figure in black robe stepped through the entrance of the bar, holding a scythe. All eyes followed him as he walked up to the bar, the handle of his scythe tapping the floor with each step he took. "How can I help you?" the bartender stuttered. "I'm looking for a particular man. Goes by the name Bob Smith." That said, his voice was deep and hollow sounding. I don't know anyone by that name," the bartender replied. Perhaps you've gone to the wrong bar?" "This is the Soggy Rose, is it not?" "It is," the bartender confirmed. "Then this is the right bar." The bartender yells, "Is there a Bob Smith?" A moment later, a man sitting at one of the tables stood up and pointed across the room to a man sitting by himself. Death walked across the room and stopped in front of the indicated man's table. "Is that true? Are you Bob Smith?" Bob considered lying, but then thought better of it. If Death had come for him, lying to him about who he was wouldn't change things. he'd catch up to him sooner or later. Yeah, I'm Bob Smith. Bob replied. Stand up. Can I finish my drink first? Stand up. Okay. Bob slid out of the booth and quickly got on his feet. It's time for you to leave, Dad said, pointing towards the exit with his scythe. I beg your pardon? Bob said, thinking he had heard death correctly. I said, go and lock the door on your way out.